Playing at the Border, A Story of Yo-Yo Ma by New York Times best-selling author Joanna Ho, illustrated by Teresa Martinez. Playing at the Border, A Story of Yo-Yo Ma by Joanna Ho, illustrated by Teresa Martinez. On the banks of the Rio Grande, feet planted on the soil of one nation, eyes gazing at the shores of another, Yo-Yo Ma played a solo, accompanied by an orchestra of wind and water. Fed by the snow-capped mountains of Colorado and flowing into the Gulf of Mexico, the Rio Grande became a boundary dividing two countries that used to be one. Yo-Yo Ma made music on the riverbanks that separated people into Mexican, American, citizen, immigrant. Though they, we, were, are one. Feet planted on the soil of one nation, facing the shores of another, Yo-Yo Ma closed his eyes as music poured from his heart through his hands. He was a prodigy who chose the cello because the double bass was too big, and he played Bach but could barely see above the kitchen table. Precise placement of his fingertips produced perfect notes, memorized when he was 4, 3 years before he performed for Presidents Eisenhower and Kennedy, 26 years before he won his first Grammy, 47 years before he became a United Nations Messenger of Peace, and 52 years before he accepted the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Born in France to Chinese parents and raised in the United States, Yo-Yo Ma challenges convention and weaves worlds together. He designed a garden set to song, united musicians across the Silk Road, and translated classical sounds into hip-hop movements. He finds home at the intersections of cultures, when traditions are kept alive and new ideas are born. Feet planted on the soil of one nation, eyes gazing at the shores of another, Yo-Yo Ma guided his bow gracefully back and forth across the strings of his cello. Built in Italy, his cello was made from parts that came from lands of many languages. The stick of the bow from a tree grown only in Brazil, the hair of the bow from a horse's tail in Mongolia, the ebony frog from a west forest in Africa, the cello's wood reddish hues dyed with dragon's blood from Indonesia, and its yellow accents created with curry powder from India. Pieces united in one instrument, one language, and nicknamed Petunia. Feet planted on the soil of one nation, eyes gazing at the shores of another, Yo-Yo Ma coaxed Petunia's strings to sing Bach's cello suites. Their notes danced over rocks and rivers and walls into the sky. Composed in Germany 300 years before it swooped and soared, whirled and twirled over the Rio Grande, this music was nearly forgotten. It was rediscovered in a second-hand store in Spain, then recorded, revived more than 2 centuries after it was written. Its notes reached through time, alive. Fingers flying over 4 strings, Yo-Yo Ma made improbable melodies, a harmony of notes, a symphony of sound from a single cello. He played at the border between nations, between cultures, between languages, between centuries, and built a bridge. Yo-Yo Ma, artist and creator of change. Born into a musical Chinese family living in Paris, Yo-Yo Ma was a child prodigy who played and memorized Bach's cello suites when he was only 4 years old. Yo-Yo's family moved to the United States when he was 7. The same year he performed with his sister, also a musical prodigy, for President John F. Kennedy and former President Dwight D. Eisenhower. Yo-Yo Ma uses art to push boundaries. Though over 100 albums, including 19 Grammy Award winnings, he has played classical music, bluegrass, traditional Chinese melodies, Argentine tangos, movie soundtracks, and jazz. In 2000, he brought together musicians from along the Silk Road, a group of strangers who spoke different languages, played different instruments, and came from different cultures, to meet for a workshop. This group grew into the Silk Road Ensemble and shows the world that art transcends political divisions. It has won 2 Grammy Awards along the way. Yo-Yo Ma has also collaborated with artists beyond the musical world. In 1999, he worked with landscape architect Julie Moore Messervy to design the Toronto Music Garden, an interpretation in nature of Bach's first cello suite. In 2013, Yo-Yo Ma teamed up with dancer Charles Lil Buck Riley to perform The Swan by Camille Saint-Saëns through a style of street dance known as jukin. A United Nations Messenger of Peace and winner of the Presidential Medal of Freedom, Yo-Yo Ma is more than a musician. He is a leader of positive change in the world. The Bach Project. In August 2018, Yo-Yo Ma began the Bach Project, a 2-year effort to increase global connections through music. On this journey, he performed Johann Sebastian Bach's 6 suites for solo cello in 36 places around the world. Along with his concerts, Yo-Yo Ma collaborated with local community leaders at each site to plan a day of action to build a more connected future. Yo-Yo performed at Trinity University in San Antonio, Texas on April 12, 2019. This was followed by a day of action on the border between the United States and Mexico on April 13th. Playing at the border was a powerful symbolic response to the anti-immigrant rhetoric and policies pushed by the President of the United States and his supporters during this time. Joined by leadership and community members from Laredo, Texas, and its sister city across the border, Nuevo Laredo, Mexico, Yo-Yo played an excerpt from Bach's cello suites before addressing the crowd. He said, "As you all know, as you did and do and will do in culture, we build bridges, not walls." Why Bach's cello suites? Johann Sebastian Bach, 1685 to 1750, a German musician, is considered one of the greatest composers of all time. When Bach composed the 6 suites for a solo cello, it was considered an accompanying instrument. Very few solos were written for the instrument. The original music for Bach's cello suites were lost, and all were but forgotten for 200 years. 13-year-old Catalan cellist Pablo Casals began studying the suites after he found a copy of the music in a thrift shop in Barcelona, Spain. He did not record the music until 1936, when he was 60 years old. Since then, they have become some of the most frequently performed and well-known compositions written for the cello. These suites are special because they create the sound of harmonizing melodies on one instrument. It is music that seems impossible, but it is made possible on a single cello. Played on the banks of the Rio Grande, the cello suites united people on both sides of the border in a show of harmony and hope. Getting to know Petunia. Yo-Yo Ma's cello was created by Domenico Montagnana in Venice, Italy in 1733. Nicknamed Petunia by one of Yo-Yo Ma's students, she is worth $2.5 million. Petunia is made of parts from all over the world. An Indonesian plant called dragon's blood dyed the wood red, while its yellow color was created from curry powder from India. The bow came from Pernambuco, a tree grown only in Brazil. The hair on the bow was plucked from a horse in Mongolia or Canada, where the cold weather makes the horsehair thicker. The fingerboard and the frog, the black parts of the cello and bow, were made from ebony, a tree grown in West Africa. Yo-Yo Ma considers his instrument to be his voice. Petunia comes from all over the world, crossing borders and boundaries to unite people through the universal language of music. Author's note: my mom used to blast a CD of Yo-Yo Ma playing Bach's cello suites early every Saturday morning. As a teenager, I hated it. I just wanted her to turn it off so I could sleep in. She never turned it off. Now the cello suites remind me of her, a woman whose love and strength and power continues to astound me. My mom immigrated to the United States from Taiwan in her early 20s. She didn't have a college degree, but hustled to build a life for my family and give my brother and me the opportunity to dream. When Yo-Yo Ma played at the border, it was an action of resistance and celebration, a reminder of the worth of immigrants, the work of immigrants, and the belonging of immigrants here and everywhere. It felt like an act for me, for my family, and for anyone who has ever moved away from home in order to build a better life. Yo-Yo Ma builds bridges. Let us all build bridges, not walls.